Denis first met Marta in a small cafe on a rainy afternoon. He was sitting by the window with his laptop while she shook off the drops from her umbrella. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" she asked. "No, please," Denis replied with a smile. They started talking about the weather, the music playing in the background, and their shared love of cappuccinos. By the end of the hour, both felt an unexpected connection. A week later, Denise invited Marta for a walk in the park. Autumn leaves painted the paths gold as they shared stories about books, movies, and childhood memories. Marta laughed often, and Denise realized he was beginning to look forward to seeing her again. 2 months later, they went to a club downtown. Denise hesitated at first. "You're not really the dancing type," Marta teased. "Well, maybe you'll find out I am," he said. Under the flashing lights, laughter, and music, they danced until their feet hurt. That night, as they stepped into the cool air, Marta whispered, "I'm glad we met in that cafe." "Me too," Denise replied. Weeks later, Denise invited Marta on a spontaneous weekend trip to the countryside. They rented a small cabin by a lake surrounded by tall pine trees. During the drive, they sang along to old songs, laughed at silly jokes, and shared dreams for the future. That evening, they sat by a small campfire, Dennis strumming softly on his guitar while Marta leaned on his shoulder. "I never thought a random cafe meeting could lead to this," Marta said. "Neither did I," Dennis smiled. Life wasn't always perfect. Dennis got busy with work, and Marta sometimes felt neglected. One evening, she confronted him. "Dennis, I feel like I hardly see you anymore. I need you here with me." "I didn't realize. I'll do better," he replied. They hugged, talked honestly, and learned that communication and small gestures were key. Soon after, Denise surprised Marta with a picnic in the park where they had first walked together, and their bond grew even stronger. A few months later, Denise suggested a trip abroad. They chose a small town in southern France, famous for narrow streets, cheese markets, and lavender fields. They explored the town like tourists, laughing and taking photos. "Do you think we'll find a secret cafe?" Marta joked. "Only if we explore every street," Denise laughed. A small mishap occurred. Denise forgot his wallet at a cafe, but together they solved it, laughing at the minor chaos. That night, under the stars on a quiet bridge, Denise whispered, "I really love you." "I love you too," Marta replied. Their first tender kiss felt like the world had paused just for them. Returning home, Denise and Marta carried the magic of adventure into everyday life. Sunday breakfasts, evening walks, and spontaneous little trips. Their love grew through ordinary moments, laughter, and mutual support. One late summer evening, Denise surprised Marta with a picnic in the park where they first walked together. He handed her a scrapbook full of photos, tickets, and little notes from their adventures. "Every memory with you has been amazing," he said softly. "I can't wait for the ones we haven't made yet." Marta hugged him tightly. "Neither can I. And I know no matter what happens, we'll face it together." A few months later, Denise surprised Marta with a weekend getaway to the mountains. They hiked winding trails, explored frozen waterfalls, shared hot chocolate, and even danced in their lodge to a silly playlist Denise had made. "Careful," Marta called as Dennis slipped slightly on a steep path. "I'm fine. Mostly," he said, laughing. "But having you here makes even the hard parts better." At a mountain viewpoint, Denise turned to Marta. "Look at this. It's beautiful, but not as beautiful as this moment with you." That night, under the stars with a small fire crackling nearby, Denise said, "Life is unpredictable. We don't know what challenges are coming. But I know one thing. I want to face all of them with you." Marta rested her head on his shoulder. "Me too. That's what makes love feel real. Not just the happy moments, but knowing we can handle anything together." Over the years, they traveled, laughed, faced challenges, and created countless shared memories. Their love wasn't perfect, but it was real, full of support, joy, and adventures both big and small. A few weeks after their engagement, Denise and Marta celebrated with a trip to the seaside. They walked barefoot along the sand, collected seashells, and watched the sunset over the ocean. Dennis whispered, "Moments like this, I want to remember every single one with you." On the third day, a sudden gust of wind rocked their sailboat, creating a small scare. Working together, they managed to return safely to shore, laughing nervously. "That's what I love about us," Marta said. "We can face anything together." Denny smiled. "Exactly. That's why every adventure, big or small, is perfect with you." After the seaside trip, they returned home and started planning their wedding. They spent evenings going through venues, tasting cakes, and imagining their special day. When the wedding finally came, surrounded by friends and family, they exchanged vows filled with love and promises for the future. The first year of marriage was a mix of joy, small adventures, and shared laughter. They moved into a new apartment with a balcony overlooking the city, decorated it together, and created traditions, cooking breakfast, evening walks, and small surprises for each other. A few years later, Denis and Mar learned they were expecting their first child. They prepared a nursery, painted it in soft pastel colors, and filled it with tiny clothes, toys, and books. When their daughter was born, Denis held her in his arms, tears in his eyes. "She's perfect," he whispered. Months later, they took her on her first trip to the seaside, building sandcastles and watching the sunset over the ocean, holding her little hands in theirs. "This feels like a new beginning," Marta said. Denis wrapped his arms around both of them. "Our adventures just got a little bigger, but every moment is still as magical." Through sleepless nights, weekend trips, and tiny everyday challenges, Denis and Marta discovered that love could grow even stronger. Their story, which began in a rainy cafe years ago, had transformed into a life full of laughter, family, and shared dreams, proving that the best adventures were the ones they experienced together, side by side. As they watched their daughter fall asleep one night, Denis whispered to Marta, "No matter what happens, we'll always have each other. And that's everything." Marta smiled, holding his hand, "And our story will never end. It just keeps getting more beautiful." Years passed, and Lily grew into a bright, curious, and adventurous young woman. Denis and Marta loved exploring the world with her, turning even ordinary days into adventures. They took her hiking in the mountains, visiting farms, and on long road trips across the country, sharing every experience with laughter, stories, and love. As Lily became an adult and moved to start her own life, Denis and Marta continued enjoying adventures together, revisiting favorite spots, traveling slowly, and cherishing quiet evenings on their balcony. They saw in Lily the same spark and curiosity that had brought them together. One autumn day, sitting on the park bench where Denis had proposed years ago, they held hands and watched the golden leaves fall. "I still can't believe how far we've come," Marta said softly. Denis smiled. "From a rainy cafe to a family, adventures, and all these memories, I wouldn't change a thing." Their love had matured into a deep, unshakable bond, strengthened by decades of shared experiences, laughter, and challenges overcome together. From two strangers in a cafe to a family full of adventures, Denis and Marta knew one unchanging truth. Together, they could face anything, and every moment, big or small, would be filled with love. As the years passed, Denis and Marta grew older, becoming proud grandparents. Watching their grandchildren explore the world reminded them of the early days of their own adventures together. They continued traveling at a slower pace, revisiting favorite places, and enjoying quiet moments together. One summer, sitting on a porch by the seaside, Denis took Marta's hand. "Do you remember that rainy cafe where it all began?" he asked. Marta smiled. "How could I forget? Every adventure, every memory started from that moment." Denis nodded. "And here we are, decades later, with family, grandchildren, and still discovering new joys together. I wouldn't trade a single moment." Even everyday life felt like an adventure. They tended their garden, cooked together, read books, and shared memories. Their love had matured into a timeless bond, strengthened by decades of shared experiences, laughter, and challenges overcome together. On a crisp autumn evening, Denis and Marta sat on their balcony, wrapped in blankets, sipping tea as the city lights twinkled below. "We've lived a full life," Marta said softly, "filled with love, laughter, adventures, and family." Denis kissed her forehead gently. "And it's still going. Life with you has never stopped being an adventure." Marta smiled, her eyes reflecting the city lights. "Do you think we'll still be sitting here like this when we're 80? "Of course," Denis replied without hesitation. "Only by then, we'll probably need thicker blankets and stronger tea." They both laughed, enjoying the quiet simplicity of the moment. As the years passed, Denis and Marta continued writing their love story in small but meaningful ways. Birthdays became less about gifts and more about handwritten letters. Anniversaries turned into weekend escapes to places filled with memories, sometimes the seaside, sometimes the mountains, and sometimes back to that little park where it all began. One winter, their grandchildren begged them to tell the story of how they met.